Is that right, Nanny K?
Nanny K, yeah, from seesingsay.
That's it. Thank you for joining me. Please tell us about the songs and rhymes you sing to babies and children to help them learn.
So I've been a childminder for almost 23 years and a parent for 30 years. And during my time, I have discovered that singing to children is actually so beneficial for their understanding and their language development. Because if we sing, we say more. And this is why I'm going to sing songs that are called seesingsay. So when we see something, I sing about it, and it helps the children say more. And in the daytime, we do so much with the children, but a lot of the time we don't actually give them the language that they need to communicate back with us. So if we ask a child to have lunch or go to bed or go to the toilet, we don't explain enough a lot of the time. And a lot of the time we talk very short sentences to them. But during my time as a childminder, I found that actually singing about what we're doing gives the children more opportunity to hear more words, and it's much more fun for me to repeat myself if I'm singing about it rather than saying about it, because singing makes us all feel so much better about ourselves and the day. And if you try and say something over and over again, it gets a bit tiresome and tedious. But if you sing about it, you can go on and on and on, and the children will start to learn what the different songs have different meanings are about and different tunes. Because babies, especially when they're born, they listen to our sounds we're making. To them it's all sounds, and our voices quite often talk in a rhythmic baby language that is much more soothing to their ears. We try and make it all more floating and interesting for them, so we change the tone of our voice, which is really interesting, because when we listen to words which are spoken and we read something, we're actually storing them in a particular part of our brain. Whereas when we're listening to music or singing songs, we're actually storing them in the other side of our brain. And this is a well-known fact that our brains work in two different parts. And one, as I say, is for talking and reading, and one is for music and singing. And this is how I've learned that more children respond to listening to songs and understanding what is needed to be said, because they're using their other side of the brain, which is a really fascinating area, which I will talk more later about. But during my time for the children that I've looked after here, many of them don't even speak a word when they start at my setting, because they are tiny, they are babies, and they have no communication with me. So the greatest skill I can give them is to learn to speak. For all the things we do during the day, whether it's toileting or eating or sleeping, I have made up all these songs that cover all areas of their development during their day, which is what we do every day. But for us, it's just natural life skills that we have learned over time. But for babies and toddlers, it's something they need to learn every day, a new skill and new language. And as I have cared for these children over the last 30 years, I've recognized that actually the more I sing, the more they say, and the more fun we have. And so instead of singing nursery rhymes to the children, which are lovely, yeah, thank you for saying you could listen to me talk about my subject, seesingsay, because I'm just so passionate about encouraging more parents and carers to sing more to children every single day, about every single thing they are doing, into much greater detail, because a lot of the time we don't necessarily explain to children the most important key things that they need to communicate back to us. So for example, when we're starting potty training at age 2, for example, we a lot of the time have never let our children hear the most important phrase which they need to tell us, which is I need a wee or I need a poo. As adults, we do not really say this often out loud, but they are the exact lines that we need our 2-year-old who is learning potty training to say to us, if they've never heard that line. So
I'm also interested, you mentioned Japan.
yes,
that's what they do in primary school.
that's right. So I've been told. My sister-in-law is Japanese, and she says that all the children in a nursery school, they don't talk to the children, they sing all day long to them, because they recognize that is the quickest and easiest way to get language development into a child's understanding. And it's all about this using a different side of the brain. So I'm sure many of you have got lots of songs that you store and can recall back word for word perfect. And this is the fascinating part, is if we talk or read something, we don't recall them in word for word formation, unlike we do when we hear a rhyme or a song. We have many songs which we can just recall from stored in our brains and reiterate word for word perfect, which is so fascinating. And this is why I want more people to sing to their children, to teach them that I need a wee and I need a poo, and how to go to sleep and how to eat their food, because we don't use our brains to the full capacity. And in Japan, this is what they do, is they sing to their children at nursery school and at home, to teach them the language that they need. Here in England, we have a huge downfall of children starting nursery school with very little communication language. But it would be amazing if we could widen the amount of songs that people can use. I found there just wasn't the resources out there to explain to a child about picking up their cup and pouring the water and drinking it up and tipping it up. When you sing a song like that, you can explain more about, instead of just pouring the water, you can describe it in so many ways and put it into a fun song, and the children like to sing along. And
fun side.
Sorry?
The fun factor.
That's
what they need.
That's right, they do. And the children and us adults, we get so much enjoyment out of music. It produces endorphins, it brightens our day, and it gives us so much pleasure. It's just not used enough at this very early stages, I feel, in a useful way. We love to sing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star to our children as babies, and that's one of my favorite songs. And I came across so many babies who could hum that tune before they had the ability to say a single word. They'd learned that tune, and they can reiterate this humming and making sounds to communicate with me because they've heard it many times. But if we sing our nursery rhymes, which are lovely, but don't give children actual language for them to communicate with you on a day-to-day basis. For example, Little Miss Muffet sat on her tuffet eating her curds and whey. When in our lives right now do children use those language of using those words? Because they don't need them to communicate with you about the things that they're tired, or they're hungry, or they're sleepy, or they're angry, or they're frustrated, or that they don't use those languages to communicate with us, to tell us what they need. But if you are able to sing a song and teach them, I need a drink, I need a drink, what do you think? I need a drink. Something like that. And I make up so many silly little rhymes all day long, which are just a lot of the time nonsense, but I've compiled a whole load of them which have got real depth and meaning and are so helpful for children to learn about what we're doing and make your day fun and their day fun, because that's what it's all about. Singing brings joy to many people, and I wish it was used a lot more. And but I recognised that there wasn't the resources out there, hence why I've created all of these songs in all different areas of development for children, to cover a whole wide range of scenarios. But it's things that every child everywhere does all day and every day, and that just gives them the language that they need. Interestingly, the children I have come to me, that when lockdown started, I haven't seen a lot of them over this time, and their parents tell me that they are still singing the songs that I sang to them when they were just like 1, 2 years old, but they wouldn't sing back to me. They now will sing those songs to those parents who've never heard those songs before, because they're my songs that I made up and would sing to them. But now they have the language development, they're older, 2.5, 3, they're now singing to their parents those songs that I taught them. And I'm hoping a lot of those useful sentences that I describe in my songs are helping them with their communication and language. So
that's lovely. What a compliment.
It is, yeah. And really interesting, I work with many families who've got children with speech and language development, autism, and they have the most amazing function with their brains, because a lot of the time those children can't talk to their parents, can find communication so frustrating, but they also learn songs. And there's such an amazing feeling when your child that doesn't talk to you hardly then starts singing the ABC song or Postman Pat song or the Wheels on the Bus song, and they're like, wow, my child can't speak to me, but they're now singing a song. And I'm like, yes, this is what it's all about, is because the autistic children and the children with speech and language, they're using these two different sides of their brain. For talking and language is so difficult for them, but they will have this storing ability with their songs, and they can recall the songs and sing them word for word perfect, which is just phenomenal. And this is why I so wish more parents would use this amazing skill that we have all the ability to do. Even if you don't like singing, you can say these things in rhyme, and rhyme is the key because it brings natural rhythm. When you speak in rhyme, you hear it all the time. It goes round and round. And saying many years ago, before we wrote down or recorded, or the only way of communication people had was talk or singing. And the songs that have been passed down through hundreds of years, through generation, from parents to children, from grandparents on through life, have all been sung, these nursery rhymes. These little rhymes have been saying the same little rhythms and rhymes and poems, and they've been passed down through generation. And they've done that because they've been stored in our brains in a different way. Yet a conversation that people have had has not got any ability to be passed down in the same way that when you sing a song, you're passing that on to the next generation, and it continues. And before we could read and write on paper, this is how we would communicate, and this is how many songs and stories have been told through time, because we've sung them and they've been stored in our brains on the right side or the left side. I don't know which way around it is, but I'd love to know more about that side of the functioning of the brain, because I've also read and heard about when adults have strokes or heart attacks or get Alzheimer's when they're old. The one common thing that people say is they can't talk very well, but they still can sing their favourite songs and join in, and it's incredible. And they recall songs that they've heard from their childhood, from their young adult lives, and they're old, and now they're remembering those songs because they're stored there forever, locked in their brains, and can reiterate them when they have a trigger. And a trigger can be either a few notes of music or an object that you see. And triggers are visual or a hearing sound that you hear or see, and it triggers those memories from years ago, and it unlocks that part of your brain that has stored these songs that you then access, and then can sing word for word perfectly, which is just fascinating, because a lot of the time these people who are struggling at the end of life have little to communicate, and I just wish that one day maybe we can recall those songs we learnt in our childhood, and they will be able to say, I need a wee, or I need a drink, help me, help me, help me, please. Because wouldn't that be a wonderful, amazing feeling for everyone if the communication was still alive and able to access, if we're using and singing rather than we're talking. I just would like to understand that more, but it's quite fascinating.
Yeah, I find that fascinating. I think that's brilliant, because my mother-in-law, she's losing her memory right now.
Yes.
It's a very sad time for the family.
Absolutely.
So I agree. I think if babies are taught that from the beginning.
Yeah.
Imagine, she gets older.
Yeah.
Help her a lot, or help, older people a lot later on.
Yes, I would love to see the science in that and understand, just to give people some extra help during a difficult time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I was talking to an ex-design teacher in the UK on the dyslexic community forum. He mentioned how our British education system, run by academic elites, refused to listen to any of his ideas to better our children's education. What are your thoughts on our education system?
So, very interesting. I am also dyslexic. I struggled as a child through school, was offered remedial extra English classes to help me with my language, because I was behind my peers. But the only things that I really enjoyed and I could focus on and I absorbed and learnt really easily and really quickly were actually songs again. And it's taken me a long time to recognise that that's how I learnt best as a child. I would sing at school or in the choir at church or in our local youth groups, Guides and Scouts. And we would sing lots of songs for shows. We'd be given the piece of paper, but being dyslexic, the words on that piece of paper would just jump around. I couldn't follow them. I couldn't read half of them. So how I learnt to sing along with everyone else was just by listening to the words and learning them through singing rather than through reading. And it just reinforces that to myself about how we're using this different part of our brains. As dyslexic children have a different way of working, and what worked for me was reading books or listening to books rather that my mum would read to me, which were in rhyme. Some of my favourite stories as a child wrote the story in rhyme, and I found this helped me all the time to follow and to understand, because it is being stored there and we're listening with a different part of our brain. And so when I was at school, if I had any work that I had to do by reading in a book, I couldn't read it very well, couldn't understand it very well. But the songs that we would sing during class, music classes, or in my out of school activities, I had so much fun then. It was such a enjoyable time for me, because it made me feel good. It meant I could join in, whereas in class, when a teacher would ask you to stand up and read out loud to the class, it's horrifying. It's just like asking you it's just asked you to do the impossible. It has just given you your worst nightmare scenario by being asked to stand in front of your peers, and you can't hardly read the words on the page or see them and follow even like where you are and got your place. And it's humiliating. It really is humiliating to be asked to stand up in class and asked to be read out loud. It does not help a dyslexic child in any way.
I totally agree, Kay.
Yeah, it's very scary, and it really, you know, it's something I feel like children shouldn't be put through. It's given me scars of standing up as an adult and talking, and it's only been in the last year or two I've actually been able to feel confident enough to stand up and to speak and talk about my experiences to others. Whereas when I was a young parent and I would take my children to mother and toddler groups, my favorite time was singing time, because I could sing all the nursery rhymes with my children and with the other parents. And eventually they asked me if I would lead the group by singing the songs. And for someone who's never felt confident to share or be the lead person in anything, I felt very, like, you know, very excited that they wanted me to lead the group for the singing time, because that was my favorite time. It was something I could do well. It was something I was passionate about, singing nursery rhyme songs to families who've never heard. A lot of where I lived, we had a very vast ethnic diversity, and a lot of the families there had never heard these English nursery rhymes, and they were fascinated, and they were desperate to teach their children both their home language and English. And for themselves to learn a nursery rhyme song was a great way for them to teach their children some English. And so I led these mother and toddler groups singing times for many years, and got so much enjoyment out of sharing my passion of singing to families and children, and seeing their faces and watching them dance and clap and join in. And over time, the babies and the toddlers would learn the songs and be able to join in and sing along, and giving them those language opportunities, which is so vital during their younger years. The more they hear, the more they will say. But a lot of the time, us parents don't know what to say, or because we don't get a response back from them. And that's the hardest thing, is when you have your baby, they don't communicate with you apart from crying. Now, my dear daughter and her husband have just had twins, and you can imagine twins as newborns, it's like amazing, but also very scary, because they just cry all the time. But the crying is their only way of communicating, and it's never a bad thing when a baby cries. It's just their way of speaking to you, because that's all they know. They don't know yet about sound and letters and language and words. They've never heard any of these, and all they have got, the only skill to communicate with you, is to cry. So I've explained to my daughter and son-in-law that it's fine. The baby cries, and then we find out what they need, whether they need just some love and a cuddle, they need some food, or they need a nappy change, or they're tired and they need to go to sleep, and they just want to be close to you. But it's crying is the first stages of language and communication. And what we need to do as parents is we need to enable our children to be exposed to as much language as possible during those first years of their lives, when they are learning the most. Apparently under 7s, their brains expand and learn at the fastest rate ever in our whole lives. So if we can cram in as much as possible during those first years, then you can give so much to your child by giving them more language. But sometimes it is hard. It's hard, so hard to talk to a baby that's not talking back, because that's sometimes the hard thing, to talk to someone when they're not responding back to you. Even myself as an adult, you start to question, is someone actually there listening to me? Like, because there's no response. I think, oh, I'm on my own talking to myself, and it's not something we're comfortable with all the time. But talking to someone and explaining things as a conversation is so much more rewarding. But you don't get this with a baby. You don't get the response verbally. All you can get is a smile eventually, or them listening and watching what you do with your mouths and your faces and your expressions. They concentrate on your face the most and the sounds they hear. And they are processing all of this information in and storing it in their brains. So they're listening on one side, and the sound for music is waiting for you to sing to them, and then they'll absorb more if you sing more, and that means you say more. So yeah, I can't express the moment. And even parents say that they sing to their babies while they're still in their tummies. It is something they encourage during pregnancy, to listen to music and sing and talk to your child still before they're born. But the minute they're born, continue that so much more if you can, to give your child every opportunity of the day to hear what you're talking about. And I do it by just describing what I'm doing. If I'm picking up the plate or picking up a spoon, I'm poking with the fork and scooping with the spoon. I'm explaining more to give children more language, because the more they hear, the more they say. And during those early years, it's so vital that we give as much as we possibly can. But I know it's difficult to sing to a baby when you've got them not responding back, but that is the key time to start. And if you start young, by the time they get to 2, they know all the potty songs. They know what a wee and a poo go in the toilet, and the nappy, and the be able to flush it away with you, because it's so much fun. You've sung all these nappies and happy nappy songs to them while you change them. But don't start potty training at 2 when you've never spoke to them ever before about happy nappies and poos goes in the toilet and the wees, because it's all new to them. If you never introduced it at an early age, if you start from day one, they've always heard these words, and they can associate with the songs and with the actions that we do to illustrate what works and what we need to learn. So yes, I
Because the ex-teacher also said that he used rhythm to help his dyslexic daughter to learn.
Yes.
She's now in university, so his way of learning. I mean, I've used singing stories with my daughter, and she loved it, and now she loves reading, writing, and spelling, and she's a bookworm. So it definitely does work.
Yes, it does. It really does. And there are a few people out there who understand this concept about the power of music in learning. And it just frustrates me that we don't use it as much as we could do, because like in schools, for example, they've discovered that tidy up song, which is a great song. You can get 30 children in a classroom to do something all at once by playing or singing the tidy up song, and guess what? They'll all tidy up and they all have fun, and it's all great way. But imagine in nursery, if you've got a song about putting your coat on or putting your shoes on or time to go out to play, it's like you could get all of them through a simple song to do the same thing, because they all want to join along, because they know what the song's about. But if you just say, put your coats on, time to go out, and that's it, a lot of those children haven't even heard those words because they're so engrossed in what they're doing. They don't realise maybe that you're actually talking to them. They might think you're talking to someone else. But there's a groups come together through music. It's like if we go to a concert, we are all listening to the same piece of music. We're all focusing on that song. So in the nursery, if you sang a song, all the children will hear it, and they will then, because you're repeating yourselves, put your shoes on, left and right, hold, it gives them more words, and they hear that tune which they associate with it's a trigger. It's that trigger time that they recognize, oh, that's what I need to do now. I've heard this song before. I know, and I can hear, and it's still going on. So it's reassuring me that that is what I need to do. And then they will see others doing it, which also then helps, because there's a visual now that more children are putting their coats on or putting their shoes on. And it encourages all those who are not necessarily focused or in their own little world doing their own little thing. But I've seen it here during my setting. I could have 6 children all playing in different areas, all doing different things. But if I start singing lunchtime, lunchtime, munch, 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 lunchtime, lunchtime, crunch, 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 they all know that song. They all know it's going to be food time, and they all will stop what they're doing and they will all come and get ready for lunch. So that's the power of music, that it allows children, and transition time can sometimes be the hardest time, whether it's in school or at home, when your child is so absorbed in what they're doing. They don't necessarily want to stop what they're doing. It's what you want them to do is part of their day, because we do know sometimes what they need better than what they know. But if we sing a song, it's a much kinder, nicer, friendlier, more exciting way to communicate than just saying, sit at the table, sit down, lunch, eat your food. All those sentences, stop what you're doing. All those sentences are so harsh, and they are so like ordering the child, instead of getting the child to think, I actually want to do this. I want to join in, and I want to take part. I understand what's been asked of me. And you know, that's what the power of music does to our brains. It brings out that enjoyment, and the person who's saying or singing in these rhymes, it makes them feel better, but it also helps the child or the adult who's listening to it, that they also feel good, because this is what music does to us. And it's a great skill that I wish more people would use, like every day, about everyday life and everyday things, not just like, you know, anything that is relevant, like our nursery rhymes, which no more are relevant to our days. We give our children songs that allow them to understand their lives right now, what they're doing every day. You know, all children need to eat, sleep, have stories, have cuddles, and go to bed. You know, these songs are just about everyday life skills, everything you do every day with your child. And I hope that some of you enjoy using these songs like I do. Some of my peers, I've heard them say, is there something else we can sing other than nursery rhymes? I've sung nursery rhymes. If you imagine doing the same job I've been a parent for 30 years and a childminder for 23 years. I have sung nursery rhymes over and over and over again. And yeah, they're nice, but you know, it's nice to hear that other childminders and carers want to learn some new songs to sing with their children about something else. But you know, if it helps us and them at the same time to make our day easier and their day flow better, I think it's a win-win situation for all. It's
definitely. I think Google needs to give you an app for your songs.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm desperately trying to reorganize my website right now. I have started sharing my songs on social media for the past year. It's almost 1 year. I only started sharing my songs from Seesingsay in March at lockdown. So what happened was, the parents of the children I childmind for kept asking me, are your songs written down? Can we learn your songs? Can I have your songs to learn to sing to my child at home? And I'd never written them down. They were all in my mind, all in my brain, stored away. I would sing them every day. So I thought I'd better start writing them down if parents would like to use them, because they're not just for me and the children here at seesingsay, they're for everyone to use. So I wrote them all down and I started sharing them, and I wanted to have a meeting with my parents, but it was organised for the March when we went into lockdown, so I couldn't do my meeting. So the next best thing I thought was I will share on Facebook live chats, so they can hear what I was going to say at our very, very first meeting, which couldn't go ahead because of COVID. But now I've been sharing my songs all over social media, and people enjoy using them and listening to them. And it's lovely when I hear back from parents who say, oh, they love that song, or they even ask me to write them a song. I had a parent say to me, oh, do you have a song about brushing your teeth? And I was like, oh yes, we have a great song for that, going and learning about all about, instead of just saying to you, just, go on, you must brush your teeth. Well, what's brushing your teeth all about? So our song is like, brush your teeth up and down, brush your teeth round and round, brush your teeth left and right, brush your teeth day and night. And it just encourages your child. And I say, just play that. You can show them with the actions, because that's always good, but you can't brush your own teeth and sing at the same time. So in theory, put my song on, the child and you can join along and sing, listen to me sing my song, and learn all about where to brush the teeth, instead of just like we do say, brush your teeth. You know, it is in and out, up and down, round and round, and back and forth, and left and right, and day and night. But that's so much more fun than just keep saying, brush your teeth, or
exactly.
Brush your teeth more.
Yeah, I think the trouble is, I think some adults forget that children are children, and
Yeah.
they want to be a child, not an adult.
Absolutely. And a lot of children, it takes more than saying something once to them. I quite often find children don't even hear the very first line of what I say to them. A great tip to do is to call their name, because they will normally respond to the name and hear that you're actually talking to them. So saying their name first before you speak to them is a great little tip. But even when you do speak to them, if they only hear something once, you as an adult, I think it's something like 3 seconds is all the time you wait to have a response from another adult. Whereas a child, they've got to hear what you say in the first place, process it, think about the answer, and then respond. And you expect this all to happen in under 3 seconds? You know, our brains are quite clever and do respond quite quickly, but when you're talking to a child that is still learning and processing, and like myself, I understand as a dyslexia, a lot of those wires in your brains aren't connected, so the paths that we process aren't linked, so those paths get lost and they're not connected to be able to find the answer if you've even heard it in the first place. But so that's why if I'm singing about something, it's easier for me to repeat myself, because I'm singing a song, and songs are notorious for repeating the same words through them. That gives the children that opportunity to hear it more than once, which for a lot of children, once is just not enough. They need it to be said to them 3 or 4 or 5 times before they have had that time to process, to understand, and to be able to respond from what is requiring from them during the day, what you're saying to them. So yeah, that's so my dyslexic brain has now like gone off on a track that I've lost where I was talking.
It's all right, I've got my list here because I'm really bad with the memory. I think I've actually covered everything.
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
But what I'd like to say is that, to everybody, please do share this video, because, our children are so stressed out in schools, they really are, and they just need a little bit of love, They need some songs, you know. Let's help Nanny K on her way. She's on
Thank you.
Facebook.
Yeah.
seesingsay.
That's right, yep.
Let's share the love and get this out to people. Our children just want to sing and be happy. That's all they want.
They do, yes. And the more people who start understanding this concept and using it in a day-to-day scenarios, I do truly believe that it will help children everywhere, especially, you know, those that struggle with language, speech and language development, those who are on the autistic spectrum, and those who are bilingual or trilingual. I've interestingly, I'll talk to you a little bit about the trilingual children that I've had at my setting. Their parents have both come from, they have their own nationality and their own home tongue, so they both wish to teach their children their home language, which is fantastic. I've always supported bilingual or trilingual children, and they need me to teach their children the English, which is great. And a lot of the time the children start at my setting with no English because they've only heard their parents in their mother tongues. So they come to me, and in one particular family, a little boy came to me and he cried every day for a long time because it was new to him. He'd never been from home without his mum or dad. And now, particularly with COVID, there are children who are a year old now who've not seen anyone else apart from mum and dad. And if they're learning just their home tongues, they've never heard a word of English, and for them to start school in another 2 or 3 years is going to be very difficult. So when these children come to me here, I will sing to them, and it's amazing that when you sing to a child who's crying, that normally soothes them, it normally comforts them, and it helps them to feel relaxed, and it makes them feel warm and loved, and it's okay to be here without mum and dad. And what I did for many years is sing the nursery rhymes. But if a child's learning 3 languages and you need them to communicate, those nursery rhymes to them don't make any sense for them to be able to communicate with me, and it doesn't teach them those core basic communication words about being hungry and tired and needing a drink or going to the toilet. Nursery rhymes don't teach those children those words in using the language that they need to speak back to us. And this is what language I feel we fail a lot of the time to do, is we don't say the sentences that we expect the children to say to us. And if they don't hear it from us in the very, very first place, how are they ever going to be able to say it to us? Now, I thought about this long and hard when this little boy who was almost 2 then needed to learn about toileting. Now, for a child who's never heard any English and starting to learn, we like to teach children body parts like eyes and nose and mouth and ears. You know, that's a great visual if we use our hands. Use my hands a lot with children. If you need a drink or something to eat, signs is a fascinating language skill that babies can learn. That if they need something more, they can do this action. They can't say the word more, they can't say drink, they can use their hand to gesture that they need a drink, they need some milk. And these things of sign language, whether it's British Sign Language or Makaton, we use hands to communicate with children who can't speak to us yet, regardless of age or ability. All those children who can move can learn to use language through signing, which is signing go hand in hand with singing and rhyming, because I understand the amazing benefits children get with signing. So the little child that I had who had no English, I sang songs, and he then understood more because I would say more to him. And eventually the best feeling I got was when the parent said to me one day, my child had the first almost 2 years of his life never heard any English, and now he's 3. He speaks more English than he does his 2 home tongues that we talk at home to him too, which is just giving me the best feeling ever. That is like, well, look, I only had him for 15 hours a week, and then he slept quite a lot of that time, being young as they do, and it's great to know that my songs are getting through to him, but it gave him that useful language of I need a wee. So then that's what I was talking about, wasn't I? The body parts. So if you'd learn about eyes and nose and mouth like we do, well, when it came to I needed the child to say to me, I need a wee. Now, if you went to a child, what's need and a wee? Well, if you said nose needs a wee, or ear needs a wee, or a mouth needs a wee, that's quite hilariously not what we say. But we've taught children, these are our eyes. And you see how confusing language, especially English language, can be. It's like, I've just taught this child that these are our eyes and ears and nose and mouth, and then I'm saying that I need a wee. That's what I want him to say to me. But you could hear me say I need a wee, but isn't it funny when you say ear needs a wee or nose needs a wee? It's hard sometimes to grasp those concepts. It's like what we need to a child to say to us, but a lot of the time adults never even say that sentence to that child, but we expect them once they start toileting to say those things to us, and this is what most of my songs are based on, is like giving children those language like I'm sorry or yes please, and just to give them more of what they need to communicate back with you on a day-to-day basis, rather than words that they don't necessarily hear or use themselves. The songs that we've passed through generations, through time, a lot of them aren't relevant for right now and today, what your child needs to learn. And I was going to say something else. I had a trigger moment come to me, and now I've lost my track where I was going with that. But
I hate that.
You're like,
that story about that little boy, that is just absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
People need to know this.
Yeah, it is fascinating.
Well done.
Thank you.
I'm gonna have to go and make my daughter some food.
Okay.
I need some food.
Yeah, it's lunchtime, munch. I'm hungry. Well, this has been a real pleasure, and I've really enjoyed our chat today. Thank you for interviewing me.
I can't wait to do it again.
Yeah.
And just, I used to write for London Mums magazine doing art and crafts.
Uh-huh.
And I'm sure she would love this. So I'm hoping to get the video finished and up and running on YouTube and send it to her. Yeah. I'm sure that her mums would absolutely adore this. It's so interesting, and that's what we need. We need more people to see it, don't we? Yeah, we do. Because, especially at the moment, I've heard many people saying they're looking for something different, looking for a different way of, caring for children, something new and exciting and fun. And that's what singing brings people, joy and fun, and so I'd love it if more people could access my resources that I have been creating for families. If it benefits a few families, make my day. It'll be just amazing. I just would love this to blossom and bloom, and like all children do. They start off so small, and they rely on us as parents to pass on our knowledge, the knowledge that we've been given from our parents, passed on to us. If we can bring a lot of joy to their lives, that's fantastic. I totally agree. They need some happiness, don't they?
Yes, exactly.
Love.
Yeah, lots of love.
Lovely talking to you, Kate.
Thank you
And
so much.
I'll put YouTube as well, so
Yeah.
everybody can click on them and follow you.
Thank
And I
you.
just can't wait to hear more about your journey.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, Sharon.
I'll speak to you soon.
Yeah.
Then. Take care.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.